Good morning and welcome to this session of Virtual Classroom Project. It's a web initiative of Department of Geology, Government VYT, PG Autonomous College, Durg. Today we are going to discuss a topic, paleoclimate analysis from sedimentology subject. Before discussing paleoclimate analysis, let us revise our understanding about environment and climate. Environment refers to the surroundings we live in. It is a combination of physical and biological components. The environment determines the climate and weather that are extremely important to all the biological forms. Any changes in the environment can alter the natural cycles and climatic conditions. Climate is part of environment, a subset of environmental conditions, which also include geography, topography, biology, geology, chemistry, economy, culture, and the interactions between all the components. Now let us try to understand the aim of paleoenvironmental analysis. The aim of paleoenvironmental analysis or paleoecology is to reconstruct the biological, chemical and physical nature of the environment at the collection site at the time of deposition based on the rock's paleontological record. The informations can be reconstructed from those rocks regarding the depositional environment, paleobathymetry, the position of ancient shorelines, paleoclimate, degree of oxygenation of the bottom water and sediment, and salinity of the waters. Paleoclimatology can be defined as the study of climates for which direct measurements were not taken. As instrumental records only span a tiny part of the Earth's history, the reconstruction of ancient climate is important to understand natural variation and the evolution of the current climate. Paleoclimatology uses a variety of proxy methods from the Earth and life sciences to obtain data previously preserved within rocks, sediments, boreholes, ice sheets, tree rings, corals, shells and microfossils. Combined with the techniques to date the proxies, these paleoclimate records are used to determine the past states of the Earth's atmosphere. Paleoclimate archives consist of geologic and biologic materials that preserve evidence of past changes in climate. They contain substances or features that can be sampled and analyzed using a variety of physical and chemical methods. Using results from the analysis of proxies in archives, scientists reconstruct changes through the time and use them to infer the patterns of climate and environmental changes at the sample site. When a number of individual reconstructions are combined, they provide a picture of regional and global climate change through time. Paleoclimate records are preserved in marine, aquatic and terrestrial settings from around the world. The time period preserved in a given material varies, as does the resolution with which it can be analyzed. Some materials provide centennial to millennial scale resolution climate records that collectively cover much of the Earth's history, while others provide relatively short records that can resolve monthly to interannual climate variability. Now let us try to understand how sediments and sedimentary rocks act as paleoclimate proxies. Sediment is deposited in layers in lakes, wetlands, estuaries, oceans and on land. Sedimentary records collected through coring or geological outcrops represent the most commonly studied paleoclimate archive. Because the oldest sedimentary rocks are about 3.9 billion years old, sediment records provide a means to study past climate throughout most of the Earth's history. Combining paleoclimate records with climate models enables researchers to reconstruct and understand the mechanisms underlying climate change. Because climate models are based on what we know about modern climate, records also provide the opportunity to test and improve model capabilities to simulate climates that differ from today. Sediment is transported by wind, water, ice, and less commonly by biological agents. Within the sediments, various proxies for past climates and environments are preserved, such as pollens and plant remains, molecular fossils, algae, charcoal, and planktonic and benthic organisms. Now let us try to understand what are proxies. Paleoclimate proxies are physical, chemical, and biological materials preserved within the geologic record in paleoclimate archives that can be analyzed and correlated with climate and environmental parameters in the modern world. Scientists combine proxy-based paleoclimatic reconstructions with instrumental records such as thermometer and rain gauge readings to expand our understanding of climate variability to times before humans began measuring these things. These reconstructions of past climate and environment span all time scales from a year to year variation to those that occurred over millions of years. These data help us understand how the Earth's climatic system varied both before and after human alteration of the landscape. The use of a proxy to reconstruct past climate requires an understanding of how that proxy is related to some aspect of climate. For example, some proxies such as atmospheric gases trapped in glacial ice provide a relatively direct measurement of atmospheric chemistry at the time the ice formed and was sealed off from the atmosphere. Other proxies are less direct, such as stable isotope measurements from shells of marine organisms. These indirect proxies require calibration studies in the modern system to establish the relationship between climatic processes and the proxy. Climate proxies can be classified into three major groups: physical proxies, chemical proxies, and biological proxies. And they can be further subdivided into various categories as shown in this slide. Physical proxies contain various attributes of the sediments and the study of ice cores. Chemical proxies deal with the study of chemical composition of the fossil shell, stable isotope studies, elemental analysis, biomarkers, and biogenic silica, while biological proxies deal with the study of pollens and spores, plant macrofossils, study of charcoals and corals and ostracods and diatoms. Physical proxies include characteristics such as sediment composition, texture, structure, color, density, and magnetic properties, among others. Scientists use changes in physical properties of archive materials to infer past climate conditions. Environmental change driven by climate, human activity, or other factors can alter physical properties of the sediments in predictable ways. Understanding these relationships provides a means to reconstruct the climatic conditions at the time the sediments were deposited. Ice core records allow us to generate continuous reconstruction of past climates going back at least 800,000 years. By looking at past concentrations of greenhouse gases in the layers in ice cores, scientists can calculate how modern amount of carbon dioxide and methane compare to those of the past, and essentially compare past concentration of greenhouse gases to temperatures. Here we can see the ice cores being drilled from Antarctic. Another important physical proxy is sediment, and the composition of sediment, that is the types of minerals and fossils that are preserved in a climate archive, can inform scientists about the salinity, temperature, ice cover, oxygen levels, nutrient levels, whether sediments washed into lake or ocean from the landscape or were formed in water, how the landscape evolved through the time, and volcanic eruption histories. All these things are recorded in sediments. Scientists use the size and shape of sediment particles to determine if the sediment was transported, how far it was transported, and how energetic the environment of transportation was. The shape and thickness of sediment layers provides a wealth of information about past processes, including whether the sediment was deposited on land or underwater, which directions the wind or water was flowing, local earthquake activity, and whether conditions were suitable for biological activity. Sediment color can be measured very precisely to aid in determining aspects of sediment composition, such as amount of green chlorophyll which is produced when plants photosynthesize, and or to identify rust on the surface of minerals that were formed under very low oxygen conditions and were later exposed to oxygen. Color can also provide clues about the sources of different sediment layers. For example, red soil that was eroded and transported following colonial era land clearance is easily identifiable in coastal plain sediments along the east coast of America. Sediment density is the mass of a sediment sample per unit volume. The density of sediment is controlled by the composition of the sediment, the amount of void space between the sediment grains, and whether the void space is filled with water, air, or other fluids. Density measurements can therefore be used to approximate changes in sediment composition, grain size, and the abundance of void spaces in a sediment sample. Magnetic material present in the sediments also helps us in paleoclimate analysis. By measuring how easily sediments can become magnetized, scientists can identify where the sediments were originated. For example, from a volcanic eruption or a specific geologic unit on the landscape. Minerals that are sensitive to magnetism tend to be aligned with the magnetic fields of the earth, which allows scientists to date older sediments that were deposited throughout several reversals of the earth's magnetic field. Now let us try to understand how biological proxies can be used as a tool for paleoclimate analysis. The biological proxies include remains of living organisms such as pollen, foraminifera, mollusks, and ostracods. Because the distribution of these organisms is controlled by temperature, moisture availability, and other environmental factors, their presence in a sample allows scientists to make inferences about the climate when the sample was deposited. Now let us learn about terrestrial biological proxies. Pollens and spores are microscopic sized structures that are part of reproductive cycle of plants. Pollen grains are produced by seed plants and spores are produced by more primitive vascular plants such as mosses and ferns. Fossil pollen and spores typically are dispersed from the source plant by wind, insects, and other means. The oldest known land plant spores are of upper Ordovician age, that is almost 440 million years old. Pollens from seed plants dates to the late Ordovician, approximately 365 million years old, with the first definitive pollens from flowering plants found in Cretaceous rocks at least 125 million years old. By analyzing pollens and spores preserved in sediments, scientists can reconstruct patterns of past vegetation and climate. Plant macrofossils our plant remains large enough to be visible without a microscope, including leaves, flowers, cones, and other plant fragments. When possible, scientists identify the plant species represented by the macrofossil. The oldest known plant macrofossils are liverworts, found in Middle Ordovician rocks, approximately 475 million years old. The oldest vascular land plant was Cooksonia, preserved in Middle Silurian, almost 425 million years old, in the rocks of Ireland. This is the oldest plant with a stem and vascular tissue, and it represents a transitional form from the older bryophytes to vascular plants such as ferns and seed plants. Based on knowledge of the environmental requirements of the living plant taxa, scientists use their presence to inform past climate and environment. Charcoal is the carbon residue that persists after plants and other organic materials are burned. Fossil charcoal is preserved in sediments as fallout from fires burning in the surrounding vegetation. Scientists use fossil charcoal to reconstruct changes in frequency and magnitude of fires in an ecosystem. As the vegetation and climate change through the time, the frequency, intensity, and area of fires also changes. Aquatic biotic proxies, for example, foraminifers. These foraminifers are single-celled microscopic organisms that live in water and bear an external chambered shell. Because foraminifer species have distinctive shell morphologies and environmental requirements, scientists can use the composition of foraminifer assemblages to interpret changes in water temperature and quality. The earliest known foraminifers were benthic forms that live on the ocean floor. These are found in rocks as old as early Cambrian, approximately 500 million years old. Planktonic forms which live in shallow water above the ocean floor first occur in Middle Jurassic. Their rapid diversification makes them valuable paleoclimate proxies from Cretaceous to modern time. Diatoms are photosynthetic golden brown algae that form skeletons made of silica. Because diatoms are sensitive to changes in temperature, nutrients, salinity, and other physical factors, they provide a means to reconstruct changes from both freshwater and marine sediments. The oldest diatoms are found in rocks dating to the early Jurassic, about 190 million years ago, and they first appeared in large numbers in Eocene sediments around 40 to 45 million years ago. Corals are marine invertebrates that typically live in colonies that contain many individuals. Corals are important reef builders that live primarily in tropical oceans and secrete calcium carbonate to form a hard skeleton. Because corals build sequential layers, they can be used to reconstruct changes in water chemistry and temperature on an annual to decadal scale. The oldest known corals are from Cambrian rocks deposited at approximately 540 billion years ago. Some modern reefs, including the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, began their formation as long as 18 million years ago. Dinoflagellate cysts. Dinoflagellates are a group of single-celled aquatic organisms that have whip-like flagella or thread-like structures that propel them through water. Most dinoflagellates live in marine waters as planktons, but some are found in freshwater also. Some dinoflagellates form dormant cysts as part of their life cycle. Because of their resistant cell wall, dinocysts are preserved in sedimentary rocks as old as the Middle Triassic, approximately 235 million years ago. The presence of dinocysts in sediment archives can tell scientists the information about salinity and nutrient status of the water these organisms were living in. Mollusks are a diverse group of invertebrates that include clams, snails, squid, and many other commonly recognized animals. Most mollusks secrete a hard shell which is usually well preserved in sediments. Mollusks can be found in terrestrial, freshwater, estuarine, and marine ecosystems, and they span over 540 million years of Earth's history. Aquatic mollusks provide information about a number of environmental parameters including salinity, temperature, nutrients, water depth, and substrate. Now let us discuss chemical proxies. The chemical composition of shells of aquatic organisms is affected by the chemistry of water in which they form. Water, in turn, is influenced by the temperature and precipitation. Consequently, shell chemistry, that is, stable isotope and elemental composition, is one example of a chemical proxy of temperature and precipitation. For organisms such as corals and mollusks that secrete sequential layers, these layers can provide an archive of change over the lifespan of the animals. Organic biomarkers are another example of chemical proxy. These are molecular fossils derived from living organisms such as plants, and they can serve as proxies for other physical and chemical properties of their environment, that is, temperature, pH, salinity, etc. Now let us try to understand how stable isotopes act as climate proxies. Isotopes are atoms of the same element such as carbon or oxygen that have different number of neutrons, giving them slightly different atomic weights. Ratios of the stable isotopes from the same elements can be measured from archive material to inform a wide range of information about past climate. For example, the ratio of O18 to O16 in rain or snow is controlled by temperature, humidity, and atmospheric circulation. Any archive that faithfully preserves these isotopes can provide information about changes in these climate parameters. Because isotopes can provide climate information from every environment on Earth, there are archives of water or plant material. They represent a very useful proxy. Concentration of chemical elements such as iron, titanium, phosphorus, etc. in sediments and other archives can be used to determine past changes in erosion, lake and ocean productivity, and land use. Erosion intensity is sensitive to changes in precipitation and stream flow, as well as changes to the landscape such as deforestation. Changes in aquatic productivity may reflect precipitation related fluctuations in nutrient input from the land. Changes in land use such as agriculture or urbanization can cause deposition of elements released from fertilizers, sewers, and other systems. Biomarkers are organic molecules that are unique to a specific organism or group of organisms. Biomarkers can be preserved in sediments and rocks after organism itself has disintegrated, and measurements of their abundance can be used as a proxy for past distribution and abundance of the source organism. Some biomarkers can be used to reconstruct past physical parameters such as temperature. For example, alkenones are biomarkers produced by marine algae called coccolithophorids. The molecular structure of alkenones is related to water temperature in which the algae grew. Biogenic silica is one of the most important chemicals found in marine and freshwater sediments. It is primarily created by microscopic algae called diatoms. but it also is produced by other organisms such as radiolarians and silicoflagellates. Measurements of opal in aquatic ecosystems are a proxy for biological productivity or the amount of biomass produced in the ecosystem. The productivity changes also can reflect factors such as temperature, salinity, and circulation. Because biogenic silica is so stable in sediments, it has been used to study past marine ecosystem primary productivity in the samples that are more than 48 million years old. Well, these are some of the books and websites which were referred to prepare this presentation. Thank you.